My name's Ethan Cole. I'm 38 years old, and I've spent my whole life building things that last: houses, circuits, and dreams. I'm an electrician by trade, a provider by choice. Every morning before the sun rises, I lace up my work boots, pour black coffee into a dented thermos, and head out to whatever job site needs light, power, or direction. My hands have calluses older than most men's patience, and that's fine by me. I don't mind the ache that settles in my bones at the end of a long day. That ache reminds me I earned my rest. When I was younger, I thought success was loud, big cars, big money, big houses. But over time, I learned that real success whispers. It's quiet mornings in your own kitchen, the hum of a working fridge you wired yourself, the sight of your wife smiling when you walk through the door. For a long time, I thought I had everything a man could want. My wife, Madison, and I had what people called the American dream. We owned a little 3-bedroom house in the suburbs, not fancy, not flashy, but solid. Every nail, every fixture, every outlet in that place had my fingerprints on it. I built it with my own hands, saved for it dollar by dollar. We'd sit on the porch on summer nights, sipping sweet tea, laughing about nothing, watching the sky change colors. She'd rest her head on my shoulder and say, "You've built us such a beautiful life, Ethan." And I believed her. God help me, I did. She was radiant back then, blonde hair catching the sunlight like spun gold, a laugh that could fill a room. We met at a friend's barbecue. She was different from anyone I'd known. Where I was grounded, she was light, impulsive, full of little surprises that made life feel brighter. Midnight drives, sudden road trips, homemade dinners for no reason. I fell hard and fast. 6 months later, we moved in together. A year after that, we were married. She told me she wanted a home full of love, not luxury. Said she didn't care about money as long as we had each other. I believed her words as much as I believed in gravity. Those first few years, we were a team. I worked 50, sometimes 60 hours a week, and she made our house a home. She'd paint the walls, plant flowers, send me pictures of new furniture she'd found on sale. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable, more than comfortable. Every time I came home and saw her waiting by the door, I felt like the luckiest man alive. I was proud of what we had, proud that I could provide, proud that every bill was paid on time, every debt cleared with sweat and sacrifice. That pride ran deep, not the loud kind that boasts, but the quiet kind that comes from knowing you've earned your peace. Our friends would say, "You two are perfect together." And maybe we looked that way: the hard-working husband, the devoted wife, the white picket fence dream. But the thing about foundations is, they only look solid until the cracks start to show. I didn't see the cracks at first. Maybe I didn't want to. Maybe I thought love was stronger than time, stronger than distance, stronger than change. I told myself that if I kept working, kept providing, kept believing, everything would stay the same. But life doesn't care how hard you work. It only takes one loose wire to short-circuit everything you built. Looking back now, I realize the warning signs were there: small, silent, easy to miss. But back then, all I saw was the life I'd built with my own hands, and the woman I thought I'd spend forever protecting. And that's the cruelest part of all. Because when the fall finally came, it wasn't the house that collapsed. It was me. It started small, so small, I almost missed it. One afternoon, Madison sat across from me at the kitchen table, sunlight spilling through the window, her fingers tracing the rim of her coffee mug. She said she wanted to quit her job, I want to focus on us, she told me, her voice soft, deliberate. You make enough. Ethan, let me take care of the house. Let me make it a home. I looked at her, really looked, and felt a kind of pride I can't explain. I'd grown up watching my father work himself to the bone just to keep food on the table. Providing for someone was how I measured love. So I smiled. Told her I was proud she could make that choice. You deserve it, I said. We both do. And, for a while, it felt good. She decorated. She cooked. She'd text me pictures of dinners waiting on the table, candles lit, plates perfectly set. She'd send captions like, "Home sweet home. Thanks to my man." I felt lucky. Blessed. Like everything was finally steady. But over time, something changed, not all at once, but little by little. Like rust spreading under paint, Madison started sleeping in later. Dishes piled up in the sink. The smell of dinner stopped greeting me at the door. She'd still smile when I walked in, but it didn't reach her eyes anymore. That easy laughter I used to love. It had vanished somewhere between good morning and good night. Her phone was always in her hand. Always. At first, I didn't think much of it. Everyone scrolls. Right. But soon, it wasn't just scrolling. It was typing, smiling at the screen, and then snapping it shut the moment I entered the room. Once, I asked, "Who are you texting?" She didn't even look up. "Just the girls." Then she changed the subject. Quick and casual. Like she'd practiced it another time. I came home early from work. Bad weather had shut the site down, and found her sitting on the couch in that silk robe I'd bought her 2 Christmases ago. She looked startled, like I'd caught her doing something she shouldn't. But there was nothing there. At least nothing I could see. Just the faint smell of perfume. One I didn't recognize. I asked if everything was okay. She smiled too fast. Of course. Why wouldn't it be? That's how it was. Little deflections. Little lies wrapped in laughter. She started going out more. Saying she was meeting friends. I'd ask which ones. And she'd wave a hand dismissively. You don't know them. Ethan. When I offered to drive her, she'd laugh and say, "You work too much. Relax for once." The first few times, I believed her. But after a while, the stories started to blur. One week she said she met her friend Laura at brunch. 2 days later she mentioned that same friend had moved to Arizona. The truth didn't add up. At night, she'd roll away from me in bed. When I reached for her, she'd sigh. "I'm tired. Maybe tomorrow." Tomorrow came, and nothing changed. I told myself it was stress, that maybe she was just restless from being home all day. Maybe she missed working. Maybe it was me, the long hours, the silence. The way I came home more exhausted than romantic. You start doubting yourself before you doubt the person you love. It's easier that way, but something inside me, some quiet, logical part of me began to notice patterns. The missing warmth, the delayed answers, the vague explanations that left me staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m., wondering when our marriage had stopped feeling like a team and started feeling like a performance. I'd catch her reflection in her phone screen, sometimes not her face, but her posture, the way she leaned into it, smiling at words I couldn't read. I didn't know it then, but those were the first signs of a rot I couldn't yet name. She'd say she was tired, that I worked too much. I told myself it was stress, but when trust starts dying, it doesn't scream. It whispers, and if you're not listening, really listening, you don't notice until it's already gone. It was a Saturday morning in late spring, one of those quiet, ordinary days that tricks you into thinking nothing bad could ever happen. The sun was warm. The coffee was strong. And for a few brief moments, life still felt simple. Madison came downstairs in a sundress I'd never seen before. It clung to her like a memory that wasn't mine. Her keys were already in her hand. Perfume heavy in the air, sweet, expensive, foreign. She kissed my forehead lightly, like you'd kiss a brother, not a husband. Brunch with the girls, she said. Might do some shopping after. Don't wait up. I smiled, told her to have fun, and watched her walk out the door, laughing at something on her phone as she left. The sound faded before the door even clicked shut. The house felt too quiet after that. The kind of quiet that hums behind your ears and makes you notice every creak in the floorboards. I made another cup of coffee, flipped through channels, then decided to clean up, just something to do with my hands. The guest room seemed as good a place as any to start. It used to be her pride and joy, the one she showed off to visitors. Always spotless. Always perfect. But lately, she'd let it go. The bed was unmade. Clothes tossed on the chair. The air stale. I told myself I'd just tidy up. Maybe surprise her with a clean house when she came back. That's all it was supposed to be. I started with the clothes, folding what I could, tossing the rest into the hamper. That's when I noticed something odd. A blouse I didn't recognize. Too small to be hers. Or maybe just not her style anymore. Lacy. Delicate. The kind of thing you wear for someone, not for yourself. A knot started forming in my stomach. Still, I kept cleaning. Because that's what men like me do, we keep moving. Even when something inside us starts to crack, I straightened the bed, tugged the sheets, plumped the pillows, and then I reached for the small trash bin beside the nightstand. I remember the sound it made when I tilted it toward the garbage bag, a soft rustle of paper. Then something heavier. Something that shouldn't have been there. A used condom. It lay there among crumpled tissues like a piece of evidence in a crime scene. The latex caught a streak of sunlight through the curtain, shining just enough to make the world tilt on its axis. For a moment, I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. My brain refused to process what my eyes were seeing. We hadn't used condoms in years. Madison's been on birth control since before we got married. There was no reason for them, no reason except the one staring me in the face. I stood there, holding the proof that everything I built, every hour, every dollar, every quiet act of love had been used by someone else. My hands started to shake. The trash bag slipped from my grip and hit the floor with a dull thud that sounded like thunder in the silence. I opened the nightstand drawer. Inside, a half-empty box of condoms. Next to it, a bottle of massage oil, imported. Expensive. Something I'd never seen before. The room began to spin. My knees hit the edge of the bed, and I sat down hard, pressing my palms against my eyes like that could block it all out. But it was too late. Once you see betrayal, you can't unsee it. Every memory rewinds in your head, the smiles, the excuses, the late nights, the perfume you didn't recognize. It all rearranges itself into one horrible truth. I wanted to destroy everything in that room, tear the sheets apart, punch a hole through the wall, scream until my throat bled. But rage is noise, and noise gets you nowhere. So I sat there, breathing through the fire, until the shaking stopped, because anger burns fast. But revenge takes patience. I didn't move for a long time after I found that drawer. The air in that room felt heavy, like the moment right before lightning hits. But when the anger finally settled, it didn't burn. It hardened, turned cold, clean, deliberate. Men like me don't panic. We plan. I've spent half my life working with electricity systems that can kill you if you don't respect them. You learn to think in steps, not emotions. You don't rush. You diagnose, isolate, and fix. That's how I was going to handle this, not like a husband betrayed, but like a professional solving a problem. First step, gather evidence. I took photos of everything: the condom, the box, the bottle, every detail, every angle. I made sure the timestamps were clear, the lighting perfect. It wasn't about humiliation yet. It was about control. Because once you have proof, the power shifts. Then I put everything back exactly as I'd found it. Sheets, trash, drawer, all untouched to the untrained eye. When I left the room, I wasn't just a husband anymore. I was an architect of consequence. I drove across town to a hardware store I'd never been to before. One of those big box places where nobody knows your name and nobody asks questions. I walked the aisles like I was shopping for a job, picking up items that looked ordinary enough: a few smoke detectors, a couple of outlet covers, the carded picture frame. But what I was really buying was justice. She thought she was playing me. But I've wired houses, rewired circuits. I know how to find the hidden current in any system. And Madison had become just another system that needed rewiring. I added one more thing to my cart: a pack of industrial-grade screws and a small drill bit. No one even looked twice. Next stop, a pet store on the other side of town. The kind with lizards and snakes and shelves stacked with containers labeled live feeder insects. I picked up 3 cockroaches, crickets, and mealworms. The clerk smiled, asked if I had a bearded dragon. I smiled back and said, something like that. Final stop, a novelty shop wedged between a pawn store and a nail salon. It smelled like plastic and bad decisions. I found exactly what I was looking for near the back: small red packets labeled itching powder, classic, gag, cheap. Childish. Perfect. By the time I got home, I had everything I needed. I remember standing in the hallway, looking toward that guest room, feeling strangely calm, like I'd already flipped a breaker and was just waiting for the lights to come back on. I started with the cameras. Years of electrical work had taught me how to make things look invisible, how to hide the important stuff in plain sight. One camera went inside the fake smoke detector above the guest bed. Another disguised as an outlet in the hallway. A third behind the picture frame near the front door, angled perfectly to catch anyone coming or going. I synced them all to a separate phone, tested the feeds. The picture was crystal clear: every movement, every sound. Mine to see. Then came the insects. I lifted the mattress and slid the open containers underneath, one at each corner. The cockroaches were already restless, skittering over the plastic. The crickets chirped quietly, like a warning song. I pulled the top sheet back and opened the box of condoms she'd used to betray me. I took out each one, careful not to tear the packaging, and sprinkled a pinch of itching powder inside. Then I sealed them again neat. Undetectably, I dusted more powder along the edges of the bed, across the pillows, into the sheets, just enough to make sure that wherever their skin touched, the fire would follow. When I finished, I stood in the doorway and looked around. The room looked untouched, peaceful, inviting, perfectly ordinary. That's the beauty of electricity. And of revenge. Both are invisible until they strike. I cleaned everything, scrubbed every trace of my work. When I was done, I sat in the living room, beer in hand, watching the clock like it was just another evening. She came home hours later, humming, pretending everything was normal. She kissed my cheek, asked about my day. I smiled. Quiet. I said, fixed a few things around the house. She never asked which ones. That night, she went to bed early, phone face down, smile fake as her perfume. I stayed up, waiting, calm as a man who already knows how the story ends, because I didn't need to raise my voice. I didn't need to break anything. The plan was already alive, crawling, waiting, breathing just beneath the surface. And soon, it would all come to light. Monday morning came quiet. the way storms do before they break. I was on the job site by 7, 40 feet up, on a scissor lift. Running conduit through the ceiling of a new office building. Sweat. Dust. Routine, the usual rhythm of a working man's day. My phone buzzed in my pocket at 1043 a.m. Motion detected. Front door. The words hit harder than a live wire. My pulse kicked. My breath shortened. I climbed down from the lift. Slow and steady. Years of working with high voltage had taught me how to move, even when adrenaline tried to take over. I found a quiet spot behind a stack of drywall, pulled out my phone, and opened the app. There she was, Madison, my wife. She walked through the front door like she owned the world. Hair perfect. Smile rehearsed. Behind her came a man I'd never seen before. Derek. Mid-30s. Clean hands. Soft eyes. He wore confidence like a tailored suit. The kind of man who's never worked a day in the sun. He looked around my living room. The one I'd wired and painted with my own hands. Like it belonged to him. He laughed that low. Self-assured laugh of someone who thinks he's untouchable. Madison poured wine. My wine. The good Cabernet I'd been saving for our anniversary. They sat on the couch. Shoulders brushing. Talking like old lovers catching up. I watched her feed him a strawberry from a bowl I'd washed that morning. Watched him lean close. Whisper something that made her laugh, the same laugh she once gave me. I didn't look away. Not once. Because watching it didn't hurt, it confirmed what I already knew. And knowing is stronger than feeling. She took his hand. Led him upstairs. The guest room camera switched on. They kissed against the door. Urgent and practiced. His shirt hit the floor. Then hers. She whispered his name like a prayer she didn't deserve to say. I kept watching. My breathing even. My pulse steady. The moment wasn't pain anymore, it was proof. Then, like poetry, the first scream. Derek yerked upright, slapping at his arm. What the hell? Madison scratched at her leg. Confusion, twisting to panic. The camera caught everything. The mattress shifted, and the first wave hit roaches spilling from under the sheets like floodwater. Crickets leaping across the pillows. Mealworms writhing across skin. They screamed, not words. Just raw. Primal terror. They stumbled out of bed. Naked. Thrashing. Slapping at their bodies as the itching powder came alive on their sweat-slicked skin. Madison clawed at her arms. Her back. Her thighs. Gasping between sobs. Derek shouted. It burns. It burns. The more they moved, the worse it got, every scratch spreading the powder. Every second feeding the fire. She reached for her robe too late. It clung to her like sandpaper. He tried pulling on his pants, but his hands shook so violently he couldn't find the leg holes. Within seconds, the room was chaos. Sheets tangled. Furniture overturned. Their screams echoing through the feed. Then they bolted. They tore down the hallway half-dressed. Still scratching. Still screaming. Madison's hair was wild. Her face streaked with tears. Derek tripped over his shoes and slammed into the doorframe. The front door camera caught the finale too naked. Hysterical cheaters, sprinting into daylight. Diving into Derek's silver BMW. And peeling out of my driveway like the devil himself was chasing them. I watched it all in silence. Then I closed the app. Slipped my phone back into my pocket. And for the first time in months, I felt something close to peace. Because revenge isn't rage. Its balance restored quietly. Efficiently. Beautifully. And that morning, justice finally turned the lights back on. I didn't go home right away. I gave it a few hours, enough time for the screaming to stop. For the panic to turn into consequence. Then I drove. Hospitals all looked the same. Fluorescent lights. That sterile smell of bleach and fear. People moving through the halls with their heads down. I didn't know which one they'd pick, but there aren't many within a few miles. The first place I stopped. I found them. There they were in the waiting room, Madison and Derek. Side by side like guilty children. Her skin was covered in angry red welts. Patches of pink and raw where she'd clawed herself bloody. His face was blotchy. Neck swollen. Arms still twitching from the itch that wouldn't quit. She saw me first. The moment her eyes met mine, the color drained from her face. That confident smirk she used to wear, gone. What was left was fear. Real fear. The kind that doesn't fade. I walked straight toward them. Not fast. Not slow. Just steady. Every step heavy with the weight of 5 years of loyalty turned to ash. When I stopped in front of her, the whole waiting room seemed to fall silent. The nurse at the desk. The old man with the cough. Even the mother with her sick kid, all of them turned. Sensing something about to break, Madison whispered my name. Ethan. What are you doing here? I looked down at her. At the woman who once promised me forever. I'm her husband. I said loud enough for everyone to hear. And these are divorce papers. I handed her the manila envelope I'd been carrying since morning. Her hands shook so hard she nearly dropped it. I filed today. I continued. Voice steady. Calm. You're going to sign. You're not getting the house. The savings. Or a single dollar more than what's fair by law. And if you contest it, I leaned closer. I released the video. Her eyes went wide. She started to shake her head, whispering, Ethan, please. We can talk about this. No. My voice cut through her, begging like a knife. You talked enough when you brought another man into my house. She started to cry. Soft at first. Then harder. Derek tried to step in. Voice cracking. Man. Calm down. You can't just. He didn't finish. One clean punch. Right to the jaw. The kind of punch only a man who's swung a hammer for 20 years can throw. He hit the floor like a dropped tool. Groaning through swollen lips, gasps rippled through the room. A security guard started moving toward me. Hand out. I raised mine calmly. I'm leaving. I said, he can press charges if he wants. I'll be at my lawyer's office. The guard froze. He must have seen it in my eyes. This wasn't rage anymore. It was justice. Madison sat there shaking. The envelope clutched in her lap. Tears streaking through the makeup she'd put on for her little brunch that morning. I looked at her one last time. You had everything. And you threw it away for a man who can't even take a punch. Then I turned and walked out. No shouting. No threats. No drama. Just the quiet satisfaction of a man who let the truth do the talking. Because in the end, that's what justice really is. Not chaos. Not revenge. Just truth. Delivered cold. In the open. Where everyone can see it. And as those hospital doors slid closed behind me, I realized something. I didn't need to forgive her. I didn't even need to hate her. She'd already sentenced herself. The papers were signed 3 days later. No lawyers screaming across tables. No drawn-out battle. Just silence, the kind that comes after the storm has done its work. Madison didn't fight a single term. She couldn't. My attorney had made it clear if she contested a thing, the video would go public. And she knew I meant it, so she sat there. Across from me in that dim conference room. Pen trembling in her hand. Her signature looked more like surrender than ink. 5 years of marriage reduced to a shaky scrawl on the bottom of a page. When it was over, she didn't look up, didn't speak, just gathered her purse, eyes fixed on the floor, and walked out. I didn't stop her. I'd done enough chasing in this marriage. I kept everything I'd built: the house, the savings, my truck, my peace. She left with her clothes, her car, and whatever dignity she could salvage from the ashes. It didn't take long for word to spread. Small towns have big mouths. And people talk. Friends who used to post selfies with her at brunch stopped calling. Her family, the same ones who once praised her for marrying such a solid man, barely returned her texts, and Derek he disappeared like smoke. Turns out, he had a wife of his own. A family. The moment the truth came out, he transferred jobs out of state, changed numbers, left Madison to pick up the pieces alone. She moved into a studio apartment above a diner. Peeling paint. Thin walls. The hum of the refrigerator louder than her thoughts. She got a job at a retail store. Standing 8 hours a day under fluorescent lights. Folding shirts for teenagers who didn't even look at her. $11 an hour. A plastic name tag. And customers who called her Miss without ever learning her name. Sometimes people recognize her. Old friends. Former neighbors. They don't say much, just that awkward half-smile that says, "I know what you did." She tries to ignore it. Tries to start over. But guilt has a long memory. At night, when the world is quiet, she scratches at her arms without thinking. Doctors told her the rash was gone months ago, just an allergic reaction. They said, but the itching never stopped. It flares up when she's alone. When she remembers the sound of my voice saying, "I know everything." Steph. She scrolls through old photos, sometimes the house. The porch. The dinners she used to post online with captions about true love. Each picture, a ghost. Each memory a wound that never quite heals. I don't think she misses me. Not really. I think she misses the life I built around her, the security, the steadiness, the quiet safety she mistook for boredom, and I guess that's her punishment, because some stains don't wash out. And some itches never stop. 6 months later, the house finally feels like mine again. The walls are quiet, not empty. Just peaceful. No perfume clinging to the air. No fake smiles waiting at the door. Just silence. Honest and earned. The kind that doesn't hurt anymore. Every night after work, I sit on the back porch with a cold beer and watch the sun sink behind the trees. Same view I used to share with her. But somehow, it looks different now. Maybe it's not the view that changed, maybe it's me. The house is cleaner these days. Simpler. The guest room isn't a battlefield anymore. It's my office now, neat. Organized. Mine. I built a desk with my own hands. Stained it with the same care I once gave to saving a marriage. But this time, the work holds. This time, the foundation's solid. I started a side business too. Residential electrical work, my name. My logo. My reputation. Word travels fast when you do honest work. Jobs keep rolling in. For the first time in years, I'm not just surviving. I'm building again. And somewhere along the way, I met someone. Her name's Claire. She's a project manager, sharp, hardworking, doesn't play games. We met through a friend at a construction site. At first, I wasn't ready. I told myself I didn't want to feel anything again. But she didn't push. She just listened. She respects effort, honesty, a truth, the same things I thought didn't matter anymore. Last week, we sat out here on this same porch. She looked at me and said, "You seem different from other men I've dated, more grounded. Like you know exactly who you are." I laughed. Told her. Took me a while to get here. But yeah, I think I do. She smiled, not the kind of smile that hides something, but one that says she sees you. Exactly as you are. And in that moment, I realized revenge wasn't about pain. It never was. I used to think revenge was about hurting someone. It's not. It's about remembering who you are after someone tried to make you forget. She lost everything, her comfort, her pride. Her illusion of control. I didn't lose. I rebuilt. And maybe that's the real justice, not what you take from them, but what you reclaim for yourself. The past is over. The noise is gone. What's left is quiet strength. The kind that doesn't need to prove anything anymore. I raise my beer to the sunset, to the peace I earned the hard way, and as the light fades, one truth settles deep in my chest. Sometimes, the best revenge is just becoming the man they can never hurt again. Brothers, if you were me, would you have forgiven her, or let the truth speak louder than rage? Tell me below. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories where men lose everything and rebuild stronger.